Having seen that the evidence, be it theistic or atheistic in nature, pressed into service to prove evolution is unable to do so, we turn to our examination of the case for intelligent creation. The basis adopted in this video is the fundamental law of cause and effect, that every effect must have a cause equal to it. This is not the only basis for substantiating the existence of the creator, nor indeed is it even the most powerful one. But it provides an encouragement to earnest seekers for the meaning of our existence, in showing that the concept of creation is in accord with the facts of the world around us. I'm well aware, some will ridicule the Genesis account as unscientific and unworthy of the least consideration. Unfortunately, the way the Bible has generally been handled by pastors, priests, and popes has tended to strengthen the skeptics. I appeal to honest seekers to let the Bible speak for itself. Presumably modern evolutionists would not disagree if Darwin, his forerunner, Lyell and his renowned successor, T.H. Huxley, were classified as scientists. Yet both Darwin and Lyell found it necessary to appeal to a first cause to produce the initial forms of life. Huxley, on the other hand, believed in the evolution of living protoplasm from non-living matter. But he had the candor to admit as follows: I have no right to call my opinion anything but an act of philosophical faith. What is more logical, the spontaneous generation of infinitely complex living forms from non-living primordial soup, in defiance of the second law of thermodynamics, an act of philosophical faith, or the production of these beautiful designs by a powerful and intelligent creator? In other words, does the effect require a cause equal to it? In his book Natural Theology in 1802, the noted William Paley, a clergyman, gave simple and compelling reasons for a designer. Just as the discovery of a ticking watch upon the ground leads naturally to the conclusion that an intelligent watchmaker has been at work, so the infinitely more complex and subtle forms of plants, animals and man bespeak an intelligent designer. But Paley's solid logic was eventually abandoned in favor of Darwin's vague and pseudo-scientific hypothesis, proving only the predisposition in men to avoid responsibility to their maker. Huxley endeavored to answer the argument of design put forward by Paley and others with an appealing analogy of his own as follows. 6 monkeys, set to strum unintelligently on a typewriter for millions of years, would be bound in time to write all the books in the British Museum. And, if we looked through all the millions of pages the monkeys had turned off, in untold millions of years, we might be sure of finding a Shakespeare sonnet among them. The product of blind chance. Thus blind chance, given sufficient time, can accomplish anything, even the production of living organisms from non-living material, in defiance of the second law of thermodynamics. Huxley's analogy will not hold up under statistical examination. H.W. Hathaway, as quoted, has shown that the letters in the word monkeys can be arranged in 5040 ways, and the 26 letters of the alphabet in 403 times 10 to the power of 24 different combinations. As for just 2 lines of a Shakespearean work containing 68 letters, the possible different arrangements increase to a staggering number of 248 times 10 to the power of 64. 6 monkeys each writing 2-line sentences 10,000 times per day would require 20,000 billion times the longest presently estimated age of the Earth to produce the sentence just once. Advances in molecular biology have made possible the testing of Huxley's thesis in a manner realistically approximating the supposed statistical conditions for the spontaneous generation of living matter. This is because every living thing contains within the nuclei of its cells highly complex codes or messages which determine all the characteristics of the organism. It is this code that is unique to each species and is the means by which the organism reproduces after its kind, the code being replicated in all offspring. Molecular biologists believe, on the basis of experiments, that the code is carried on very large molecules of DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, arranged in the form of double helix, composed of groups of atoms at regular intervals, the patterns of which constitute the code itself. There appear to be 4 atom groups that make the alphabet of the genetic language, and their arrangements in the DNA molecules that constitute genes spell out the huge number of messages that define all the properties, instincts, and processes of the organism. Familiar, though much cruder, examples of message codes that illustrate the basic principles involved are seen in the Morse code and the binary computer language of electronic digital devices, both of which employ language having only 2 symbols. For life to arise spontaneously, it appears essential that the enormously complex DNA molecules together with highly specific codes would need to be produced by chance. The odds against such a thing happening are incomparably greater than the accidental production of a Shakespearean sonnet by a playful monkey. And it must be understood that for the genetically coded DNA to perform its function in normal circumstances, it must be enclosed within a specific cellular structure containing cytoplasm and other microstructures that involve a range of complex organic chemicals. Many attempts have been made by evolutionists to synthesize the organic chemicals present in living matter using inorganic precursors. It has been found that mixtures of chemicals such as ammonia, hydrogen, methane, and steam, when supplied with energy, possibly by an electrical discharge, can give rise to simple organic chemicals classed as biomonomers. Among these are included amino acids and sugars that form some of the bricks out of which living cells are constructed. However, the next stage of synthesis, in which these biomonomers are joined together into huge specifically sequenced molecules of protein, or DNA, has remained an impassable barrier. Dr. A. Wilder Smith, FRIC consultant organic chemist, previously professor of pharmacology at the University of Illinois, has proposed the following analogy to illustrate the problem. If one constructed a jigsaw puzzle of just 3 pieces, it could very easily be fitted together. The chances of putting it together wrong are minimal. However, in a puzzle of many thousands of pieces, many of which are practically identical, the problems of putting it together correctly multiply as the number of similar pieces increases. The simple biomonomers are to be compared with the 3-piece jigsaw puzzle, while the viable macromolecules are represented by the puzzle containing thousands of almost identical pieces, each of which must be put into a highly specific position to complete the picture correctly. To put the problem on a mathematical basis, the odds against a simple 300 sequence gene being assembled by random processes is calculated as 4 followed by 180 zeros to 1, assuming that 1% of the total mass of the Earth consists of biomonomers in an aqueous medium, that is containing water, being able to react and link with one another. The total number of biomonomers involved would approximate to 10 followed by 50 zeros. The number of 300 sequence macromolecules capable of being formed at any one time would be 10 to the power of 50 divided by 300, equaling 3 times 10 to the power of 47. Assume also that all of these macromolecules dissociate and reform into new arrangements at a rate of 1000 times per second. The number of seconds required to reach the 4 times 10 to the power of 180 arrangements statistically required to produce the intelligently coded gene approximates 4 times 10 to the power of 180 seconds divided by 3 times 10 to the power of 50, or 4 times 10 to the power of 122 years. This is 10 to the power of 133 times the oldest age of the Earth currently postulated by evolutionists. I recognize that the assumptions made here are not completely valid, but the generalizations introduced tend to favor the evolutionary case and not the other way around. The simple and unavoidable conclusion of this digression into organic chemistry and statistics is the one that appeals to common sense, that is, that blind chance alone cannot produce the complex chemicals and structures involved in the simplest living cells, much less the multitude of forms inhabiting the Earth's biosphere. The only alternative is that an intelligent designer and powerful creator has been at work. One does not need to go any further than the human body to see the finger of God. Take the ear, for example, with the highly responsive eardrum. connected through the airspace of the middle ear by 3 tiny bones that transmit the effects of sound waves without distortion to the oval window of the inner ear. Consider the eustachian tube that ventilates the middle ear, the blockage of which causes the sound to be muffled. The fluid-filled inner ear contains over 20,000 minute hairs mounted on the membrane and tensioned by another in such a way that different hairs vibrate and transmit electrical impulses to the brain, depending on the pitch of the sound waves received, the impulses being proportional in intensity to the intensity of the sound. And associated with this complex organ are the fluid-filled holes and canals that, through another system of hair and nerve cells, provide the sensations of orientation and movement, keeping in mind not only the wonder of the functioning of the ear and balance mechanisms, but the wonder of their development in the womb, from that single fertilized egg cell with its extraordinary coded messages, and the wonder of their maintenance in life through the action of the blood and lymph circulatory systems. Then there is the eye, with its protective socket inlaid, matched with its partner, to provide stereoscopic and distance sensations, one set of muscles controlling orientation and another set focusing the lens, to give a sharp image on the amazing light sensitive cells of the retina, which transmit the sensations of movement and color to the brain. This efficient pattern is found, with minor variations, not only in many vertebrates, but also in cuttlefishes. Evolutionists ask us to believe that such an organ arose by chance variations, not only in vertebrates, but also quite independently in cuttlefishes, which, according to the family tree of evolution, have no common ancestor with such an eye. Other miracles of nature that plainly defy explanation on evolutionary grounds include the ants and bees, with their complex social organization and differentiation of tasks, and the amazing symbiotic relationships between some insects and plants, for feeding of the former and fertilization of the latter, for example the yucca plant, and the moth pronuba, the bucket orchid and the bumblebees. In my opinion, it must be concluded that the doctrine of evolution is beset by a host of insuperable problems. In the first place, it can present no believable mechanisms for the origin of life or the origin of species. Evolution is bankrupt on scientific grounds, and more scientists are recognizing this fact. Creationists have launched attacks on the pseudoscience served up in biology courses to unsuspecting students in academic institutions, and evolutionists have been put on the defensive. To believe that eyes and ears, which are on their own admission extraordinarily complex, suddenly originated without the influence of a designer is a feat of imaginative delusion surpassing Darwin's. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to get notifications of new videos. Like, share and comment below.